Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'd like to begin the meeting with the reorganization of the school committee. Do I have any nominations for chair?
I'd like to nominate Anthony Marciano to the position of chairman of the North Providence School Committee.
There's a nomination for Anthony Marciano for the chairman of the school committee. Do I have any counter nominations? Do I have any counter nominations?
Second.
Can I have a second?
I second that.
Stephen Palmieri seconds.
I second that.
All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it, so voted. Congratulations, Anthony.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your confidence, and I know we're going to be year and productive year. Next item on the agenda would be for vice chair. Do we have a...
Mr. Chairman, I would like to nominate Gina Picard as vice chair of the school committee.
Nomination or Mr. Yossi? Do we have a second?
I second.
And Mr. Palmieri? Are there nominations? Are there any current nominations? If there aren't any current nominations, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. De Silva? Aye. Mr. Palmieri? Aye. Mrs. Picard? Aye. Mr. Andriozzi? Aye. Annetta? Aye. And chair votes aye. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Next item is nomination for clerk of the committee. Mrs. Picard?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to nominate Stephen Andriozzi for clerk of the school committee.
Mrs. Picard nominates Stephen Andriozzi for clerk of the committee. Are there any counter nominations? Are there any counter nominations? Are there any counter nominations? We have a second on that? Seconded by Mr. De Silva. Discussion? We'll have a roll call vote. Mr. De Silva? Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Palmieri?
Aye.
Mrs. Picard? Mr. Andriozzi? Aye. Mr. Iannetta? Aye. And chair votes aye. Congratulations, Steve.
Thank you.
There were no votes taken in an executive session.
Legal counsel.
Mr. Palmieri, the item on the agenda pertaining to legal counsel.
I nominate Ben Scungio's firm for our legal counsel, with the exception of the special educational department, which would go to Andrew Hennius.
Motion by Mr. Palmieri.
Second?
Seconded by Mrs. Picard. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted. Okay, next item. Yes. No, we don't have any.
So we don't have a sheet, so nobody could sign up.
Okay. There's no, there aren't any.
Does anybody have public comment?
Yeah, are there any public comments on anything?
Five.
Items 5 through 10? Okay, superintendent's report.
So we are entering into our budget preparation time of the year. We're going to be working closely with principals and central office staff directors to take a close look at staffing needs and any programmatic changes that may take place. We're making sure that whatever changes we recommend are aligned to the vision that we have for the district, that we've tried very hard to clearly communicate with all principals, teachers, families as well. So some of those items that we're taking a close look at are the response to intervention MTSS system, and looking at the staff that we currently have, how we're using the staff, and how we can facilitate more co-teaching, more collaboration among our teachers. Certainly the reliance upon solid data to group students and then deliver evidence-based instruction. So that's one of our major initiatives right now. We've spent a lot of time working with teachers, principals, to really explore that and come up with a common understanding of where we're going in terms of service delivery. We're looking very closely at our facilities, going in with a sharp eye, taking a close look at every single school, noting what tasks need to be addressed immediately, which ones need to be addressed by custodians, and then monitoring the work completion. So we know that the facilities that we have room for improvement, and we are expecting our maintenance and facilities staff to work closely with us to make sure that every single item on those punch lists is addressed in a timely fashion. So that's of critical importance to us. The last thing I just want to report out is we continue to work closely with our architect firm, SLAM and Gilbane, the contractor, in terms of our school construction project. We met just this past week to look at what they call FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and equipment, to start to look at what our options might be. And again, this was in the paper last week, but I certainly want to reinforce the fact that my first question to the architectural firm and the designers that were there was, can we start to look at what items in terms of FF&E we can bring into the other elementary schools, the ones that are not under construction, sooner rather than later. So we want to make sure everybody does understand that all schools are getting the attention, and we'll have upgrades. So that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Next item is Madam Superintendent.
Okay, be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the monthly financial report as submitted.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Picard, seconded by Ms. Dianetta. Discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, so voted. Next item.
Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve field trip requests as submitted.
Motion by Ms. Dianetta, seconded by
Second.
Mrs. Picard. Anyone else? Mr. Palmieri? Anyone on here? No. Okay. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted. Next item.
Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the leaves of absence as submitted.
Motion by Ms. Dianetta? No, Mr. Andriozzi, sorry.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Picard. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted. Next item.
Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the appointments as submitted.
Motion by? So moved. Ms. Dianetta, seconded by Mr. Andriozzi. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted. The next item will be new business. Someone's here to... Yeah, sure.
Okay. Patty Sweet is here, correct? From Tri-County now, not Tri-Town. I'm still stuck saying Tri-Town. I met with Ms. Sweet a few months ago regarding the Rhode Island Student Survey, and I asked her to address the school committee, answer any questions that you might have about the Rhode Island Student Survey, and then we'll have to take a vote on whether or not you will approve the administration of this survey. So I'd like to introduce you to Mrs. Sweet. If you'd come forward.
It's not on for vote tonight, but obviously you can make your presentation, I guess, okay?
Hello, I guess you guys weren't expecting me. I'm Joe DeSantis. I'm the CEO of Tri-County Community Action Agency, formerly Tri-Town Community Action Agency. I've been with the organization since 1973 and have been its CEO since 1980. We have expanded quite a bit since the old days, and I recall the time when we had a $1 million budget. Now our budget is up to $25 million, and we handle all of South County. So before Patty Sweet gives her presentation, I would just like to make a few comments. Excuse me, I did prepare them, and I really don't have my right glasses, but if you can bear with me. And Anthony, it's nice to see you again. I don't know if you remember me from the old days. Okay, and Ron.
Gee, did you have to say old days?
Yeah, well, they were. What am I going to do? I got to be honest. As I said, I'm Joe DeSantis, and I'm with Tri-County. We are here this evening to request your permission to administer a student survey which will help us measure the extent of the needs of our students and would put Tri-County in an advantageous position to seek future funding from federal funding sources. So that's an important survey for us. And I do remember reading an article in the Valley Breeze that talked about some of your problems I think you had with requests for surveys. And I looked it up and I noticed that if it were my daughter in the school system, I would not have approved that survey because I also believe that it was intrusive. The questions that we're asking were not appropriate in my mind. Yeah, Department of Health, I think, and Department of Education. So I just wanted to make that known because I felt it was important that we don't agree with every survey that's administered. I don't think that, and I don't consider that what we're proposing tonight, the survey that we want to propose to you to administer, is invasive, or that there are any inappropriate questions for middle schoolers. And I agree with the committee's decision that I hope you will abide by that decision to approve it. The intent of our survey that we're requesting from this committee this evening focus on collecting data to provide state and federal officials with important information around youth needs among our youth in this community. And I do believe that this survey not to be intrusive, but that's of course for you to determine. And in addition, we would require parental permission prior to any student completing the survey. So with that, I'm hopeful that your vote tonight will approve our request. And with that, I'd like to turn this over to Patty Sweet, Director of Prevention.
Okay, thank you, Mr. DeSantis.
Have any questions?
Any questions? No? Okay.
Just to clarify that it's not on for vote.
No, it isn't. It's not on for vote tonight. Sorry about that. It just, okay.
Hi, so I'm Patricia Sweet. I'm Director of Prevention at Tri-County, and I thought I'd just give you a very brief explanation of how the coalitions functioned in the past and where we're at right now. So many years ago, up until about a year and a half ago, Behavioral Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Hospitals funded 39 towns and cities with funding to do prevention work. As initially the funding was state funding, then it went to state and federal, and then it went to federal with all the budget cuts. Presently, it's federal funding, and Buda could no longer afford to fund 39 cities and towns. So they put an RFP out to develop 7 regions within the state of Rhode Island, and Tri-County is considered region number 1, which is Southern Providence County. It is Tri-County that will accept all the funding And they will also administer the scope of work as to the work that needs to be done in prevention throughout the region. And I do understand that maybe some of the questions on the survey, that we have to ask these questions because our youth are ingesting substances that are a variety of different substances. Right now, Rhode Island is third in the country for marijuana. It's a little less than average for alcohol. And as you all know, Rhode Island has a serious opioid epidemic. And what's trending is that the opioid epidemic each year is getting younger with use. So eventually, or hopefully we can curb that, but eventually it might end up in our schools also if we follow the trends of the use getting younger and younger each year. If we don't ask at-risk questions, we won't be able to find out what the needs of our youth are. And if we don't know what their needs are, then we can't develop strategies to help our youth. The Rhode Island Student Survey helps us to evaluate our effectiveness in prevention and also allows the state to apply for future funds. However, by not collecting all this information, it puts Rhode Island in a less competitive position to receive federal grant awards in the future. And as I mentioned previously, all prevention funds are federal dollars. So without that information, Rhode Island doesn't have a greater chance of receiving future funding from the federal government. Buddha, as I said, will be awarding the funds to each region, which would be Tri-County. And they said as they're moving forward that they're going to award the funds according to needs. So if we don't gather all the information within our region, it may affect us being able to serve our youth and take care of their needs. The survey, as I've mentioned, is strictly anonymous. A name is not put on the survey at all. Parents can opt out if they do not want their child to participate in the survey, and if they allow their student to participate or child, the student can skip any question that they don't feel comfortable with. The questions that were developed were also developed and approved by the CDC, which is the Center for Disease Control. It was also approved by the Rhode Island Department of Education, and it was also approved by the School Committee Commission. Any questions?
Does anyone have any questions? Thank you very much for your presentation, and we'll probably vote on it at the next meeting, okay?
Great.
Yes.
Can I just ask, there is a deadline, correct? Because when I had met with you in, I believe, November, we had said, okay, we
Yeah,
fine.
they would like to administer the survey between February and April, so if we know before April, would be in good shape.
Yeah, that won't be a problem. You'll know it before April. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you again. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any school committee reports?
I have a few more questions, though, that I need to ask her.
Wait, no. Okay.
Yes. I'll call her.
She's gonna call. Okay. I didn't. Okay. Next item, request to address the committee, Mrs. Bucci. The topic is playing field surfaces.
Thank you, Chairman Marciano and members of the North Providence School Committee, and good evening, Superintendent Marisol. My name is Ruth Bucci. I believe that nothing is more important than health, the health of our children and the health of our community. As a resident, parent, taxpayer, and voter, I care about having a safe field at the high school, and I believe that most residents feel the same way. Many of us want a well-maintained natural grass field at the high school because it is the healthiest type of field of surface for our children and community. Not only should we improve our field with natural grass, we can do it. And the packets that I have provided you have at the beginning my testimony, and then it has attachments about research and the petition and some funding information that had been done a couple of years ago. Okay, my family and I have lived in North Providence for many years, and we have many friends here. In 1950, my parents built a home on Longview Avenue, just behind North Providence High School. I grew up in North Providence, attended Stephen-only school and North Providence High School, taught at the high school, and practiced law in town. I sent my daughter to North Providence Public Schools as well. I appear before you tonight to respectfully request that you take the necessary steps that will allow the high school upper athletic field to be improved with natural grass. Subsequent to my presentation here in 2015, I walked door to door throughout North Providence, and over 200 residents signed a petition requesting a natural grass high school field renovation and opposing artificial turf. This petition was presented to the town council, and a copy was mailed to the school committee and mayor. I have an additional copy attached. Additionally, in 2016, at the request of the mayor, I researched and found potential sources of grant funding for natural grass athletic fields and requested to be on a field committee. A copy was sent to the mayor, town council, and school committee. I have attached a copy also. I request that the school committee look into what it takes to have a well-maintained natural grass field. The evidence continues to mount that artificial turf is unhealthy. I have provided to you research on the effects of artificial turf on health. Chemicals contained in artificial turf remain a major reason why I oppose it. In one study on chemical analysis of artificial turf, which was completed by Environment and Human Health, Inc. at Yale University in 2015, there were 96 chemicals detected. A little under half have never had toxicity assessments for their health effects. Of the rest, 20% are probable carcinogens. According to the Environment and Human Health, Inc., included in this list are chemicals that are toxic to human respiratory systems, may cause damage to fetuses, are toxic to liver and kidneys, as well as irritants to eye, skin, and lungs. Some chemicals are toxic to aquatic life. In my opinion, to replace natural grass with such chemicals goes contrary to common sense. In another recent report, the state of Washington Department of Health responded to Coach Amy Griffin's list of Washington soccer players who had cancer. These cancers among soccer players, particularly goalies, raised awareness nationwide about the chemicals contained in artificial turf when the story was broadcast on NBC. The Department of Health published its investigation of reported cancer among soccer players in Washington State and released a revision in April 2017. The Department of Health states in its clarification, our investigation was not designed to determine if soccer players in general were at increased risk of cancer due to exposures from crumb rubber and artificial turf. While the DOH states that available scientific literature suggests exposures to toxic chemicals from crumb rubber are very low, questions remain about potential toxicities and levels of exposure. The Department of Health does not say that artificial turf is safe, and does recognize there are toxic chemicals in crumb rubber and states that it will continue to monitor research in this area. One underlying fact that all sources agree on is that there are ongoing studies on the health effects of artificial turf. Currently, there are no completed comprehensive studies on the health effects of artificial turf. Congress asked the EPA in a 2015 letter to determine whether crumb rubber is an unreasonable risk to human health. This lack of comprehensive studies means that there is currently no way to know whether artificial turf poses an unreasonable risk of harm. In a letter to the Town Council in 2016, Rhode Island Department of Health notes that while past studies have not found that artificial turf poses a significant health hazard, studies are ongoing. And Rhode Island Department of Health mentions the State of California Office of Environmental Health Assessment and the EPA, who are currently studying it. Also, Rhode Island Department of Health cannot substantiate claims of artificial turf causing cancer without a well-designed study. Rhode Island Department of Health does not rule out that artificial turf causes cancer. In addition, children in particular are vulnerable to chemicals in artificial turf, and this fact is emphasized by various doctors, such as those at Mount Sinai, who state that children should not play on it, and there is no convincing evidence of safety of artificial turf. There are concerns about the increasing numbers of young athletes who played on artificial turf and developed leukemia, non-Hodgkin lymphoma, testicular and prostate, and other forms of cancer. The known fact that artificial turf contains many chemicals, many of which have never been tested for toxicity, and many that are tested are known to contain carcinogens and irritants, causes us to want to stay away from it. Heat-related illnesses because of high temperatures on artificial turf, injuries, and infections are additional player health problems associated with artificial turf. Environmental pollution is an added negative, not just from the heat of artificial turf, but also from the release of chemicals from artificial turf into the air and water. A well-maintained natural grass turf field is a healthy place for our children to play. We can make this possible here in North Providence. The mayor has spoken of an additional field in the future, so that is a possibility. Last week, I met with Superintendent Marisol, Principal Goho, Athletic Director Glenn Williams, and Director of Buildings Firoli, and I spoke about the harmfulness of artificial turf and the possibilities of improving the high school field with natural grass. I think that we all agree that we want healthy fields for our children and community. One suggestion is that we have an assessment of the field by those who are knowledgeable in turf grass management to determine what needs to be done to make the field a better natural playing surface. We can benefit from those who have studied the science of turf grass. We have URI, which offers a program in turf grass management, and there is Kingston Turf Farms in Rhode Island. Tom Irwin, advisors of Massachusetts, Ian Lacey, lead advisor, who spoke before the North Providence Town Council on December 1st, 2015, is another possibility. There's Alan Seed, Fair Play Turf Services of Exeter, Rhode Island, which is recommended by Kingston Turf Farms, and there are Sports Turf Specialties recommended at the meeting by Building Director Firoli. Perhaps the school committee could be guided by Jared Minnick, lead advisor for Natural Grass Advisory Group, who has assessed the fields on Martha's Vineyard, as they are building all new grass fields on the island. On Martha's Vineyard, there were two groups, one for natural grass, one for artificial turf, and they joined together, and now Martha's Vineyard is developing all natural organic grass fields throughout the island. Minnick is helping to direct that effort. They are improving all the fields so that there is less wear on any one. Finally, there's another possible contact is Sports Turf Managers Association, STMA, Tim Van Loo, President and Certified Sports Field Manager. They may be able to advise North Providence about a workable plan for very playable natural grass fields in North Providence. These names are just a few suggestions. Other companies that assess natural grass can also be considered. For information, I called Kingston Turf Farms, spoke with Brock Bouchard, and told him about my wanting to improve our field with natural turf grass. He suggested I call Allen Seed Fair Play Turf Services and that I speak with Eric Hagenstein, which I did. The two partners who run Fair Play are Eric Hagenstein and Brian Walters, and they said that they were willing to come out, get a soil sample, and look at the field free of charge to see what they thought needed to be done. Fair Play manages fields for Westerly, Rhode Island, and Brian Walters is a graduate of the University of Massachusetts with a degree in turf grass management. I suggested this site visit at the meeting with the superintendent, but it was rejected by Superintendent Marisol and Director of Buildings Furoli. They did not know Fair Play, and Mr. Furoli said that they had already spoken with Dennis Brolin of Sports Turf Specialties in Massachusetts, and that they might come out to take a soil sample. But once the field is assessed, a plan can be developed for improvement with natural grass and its maintenance. The course of a safe natural turf grass athletic field depends on what needs to be done and who is going to do it. When I spoke with Brock Bouchard of Kingston Turf Farms, he told me that turf grass with installation for a field the size of a typical football field is about $50,000, and that they can do the job. The irrigation and drainage might be about an additional $100,000 or so. Another company would do that. He told me that years ago, Site Tech had done the construction for Bryant University fields. So for about $150,000, we could have a brand new natural grass field at the high school. Another option is to fix the field and to rehab it with natural turf grass. Brock Bouchard of Kingston Turf Farms mentioned that it might be possible that we don't need a whole new field. That determination would have to be made by turf grass professionals. An assessment of our field by someone knowledgeable about repairing and maintaining turf grass might indicate that we can rehab the field at a much lower cost. It might be possible that a rehab job could be done for about $10,000. I discussed rehabbing the high school field with Brian Walters of Fair Play, and he described how that could work. Although it may be possible to do this in early spring, if the soil temperatures permit and the ground is neither muddy nor frozen, a rehab is typically done after the football season. They strip out the middle of the field when the grass is dormant. They then cut the grass, harvest it, and lay it down, and when the temperature comes up to 52 to 55 degrees, the grass will be green, and when the temperature goes to 62 to 65 degrees, the grass will grow. But whether we have a rehab field or a fully redone field, it must be maintained. Jared Minnick, who is currently directing the Martha Vineyard's development of turf grass athletic fields, writes about how new data can be used to update older grass field maintenance programs. In a May 1, 2017 article, Improving Natural Grass Field Quality Operations, Minnick talks about modern impactful aeration for high traffic areas. Soil testing in high use and low use areas guides nutrition once the field is less compacted. He also mentions new varieties of Bermuda grass, Kentucky bluegrass, and perennial ryegrass. Water senses and consistent mowing are recommended for a healthy field. A maintenance plan cannot use old methods, but must change to meet current needs, whether workers are trained in modern turf grass management or North Providence hires a private company for maintenance. The field must be supported. The turf grass management company that I spoke to is Fair Play. Their program costs about $6,000 per acre per year. According to Brian Walters, a Fair Play turf grass management program for the high school might cost $10,000 to $12,000 per year. A natural turf grass athletic field is less expensive than an artificial turf field. Compare the total cost of a natural grass field, brand new, at $150,000, to a new artificial turf field at a cost of $1 million to $1.5 million. A well-maintained natural grass field will last 50 to 100 years. A well-maintained artificial turf field is generally warranted for 8 years, although I know the speaker last in November said 12 years his company would warrant. Many artificial turf fields failed in Massachusetts after only 5 years, according to testimony by turf expert Lacey before the North Providence Town Council in 2015. Artificial turf is not maintenance-free. It requires a regular program that includes redistributing and adding infill as needed, disinfecting, testing for G-max levels, and repair. If the artificial turf is not well maintained, then there is greater risk of player injury. Even if well maintained, artificial turf will degrade, and the cost to replace it is estimated at $300,000 to $400,000, and this replacement may be after 8 years. Putting in a brand new natural grass field is only $50,000 for just the field itself, and it lasts. What the actual cost to maintain the North Providence field would be is not yet determined, but proper maintenance of either an artificial turf or natural grass field requires a budget allotment. The Cape Cod Times reports that Don Follett, the director of Fields and Grounds for the Baltimore Ravens, says that the cost of maintaining an artificial turf field and a natural grass field are about the same. In 2016, the Baltimore Ravens pulled out the artificial turf at M&T Bank Stadium and replaced it with natural grass. Currently, more than half, by one, of all NFL stadiums are natural grass. In a 2010 survey, most NFL players wanted to play on natural grass, and most believed it is safer. Even Tom Brady recently stated he prefers natural grass playing surface. And there are a lot of benefits to natural grass athletic fields. I would like to mention the benefits to North Providence from its natural grass field at North Providence High School, and the added potential benefits when it is repaired with natural turf grass. Using the information from Jared Minnick in his article, 8 Benefits of Natural Grass, these benefits are: the air quality improves with natural turf grass. A typical grass soccer field improves air quality and will offset the carbon produced by a car driving 3,000 miles. Natural turf grass is a pollution filter. Water runoff is absorbed. Also, noise is reduced. Stormwater management is improved. With turf grass, more water is absorbed and fewer pollutants and sediment go into our water bodies. Heat is reduced. Turf grass is like an air conditioner for the area. In a separate study included in this packet, another study at the University of Missouri measured the temperature of real grass at 105 degrees and artificial turf at 173 degrees on a 98-degree day in 2012. Well, another advantage of benefit of natural grass athletic fields is wellness is promoted and stress reduced by natural spaces. The care of turf grass can be therapeutic and can be used in rehabilitation programs. And I would add, we could consider a future educational program in this area if we had natural turf grass. Community appeal is increased by natural spaces and turf grass. Property values increase. And where there are more trees and green spaces, crime reportedly decreases. A natural grass field allows all ages to play outside. The possibilities for our North Providence community for more recreation now and in the future are increased by improving our fields with natural grass. So in conclusion, I respectfully request the North Providence Town Council, I respectfully request the North Providence School Committee take the necessary steps that will allow the high school upper athletic field to be improved with natural grass. And I respectfully request that you oppose the use of artificial turf. I further respectfully request that the school committee consider the information and suggestions that I have presented tonight in their decisions about improving the condition of the field. Contact turf grass professionals who can assess the field and provide plans to fix it, and seek grant and other funding for a natural turf grass field. Finally, I respectfully request my appointment to the field committee. I appreciate your allowing me to explain my views on improving the high school field. I believe that working together, we can achieve a healthy natural grass field, one that is good for our children and community, and one that we all can be proud of. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much, Ruth. As usual, you did a very excellent job, very passionate about this issue. Does anyone have any questions of Mrs. Bucci? Oh, I think you covered everything. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And we have all the information, and it's very, very helpful to look this over. Thank you. Stephen, school sporting event fees.
It's really not that big of a deal. It's just kind of, some parents had called me and were wondering why we're charging our students who go to the school $3 to go to a game, when, especially the freshman games, I guess they're going to outside games when they're played away and they don't charge anything, not the parents, not the children. Well, they didn't pay anything. So if Glenn Williams would like to come up, he can tell us all the information he has before I make a motion.
I can close this, Anthony. If I close this, right? So I can put mine up. I'm not sure what information you're looking for, other than the fact that most schools charge, and you want to specifically talk about freshman games? Freshman games, $3. In fact, we just played in a Providence high school. I'm not sure which schools. Everybody has a different, their own policy. But we just played last Saturday in, I won't give you the name of the school, but in a Providence high school, and they were charging $5 for adults and $3 for children, for students. We don't charge below middle school when they come in. If a middle school coach says, hey, we're bringing my team in, we don't charge those kids either. But that's been the going rate 20 years now, if not more. I'm not sure how long the freshman program's been around. Maybe somebody else knows.
I have a question, Glenn.
Sure, Anthony.
Yeah, the money collected, what happens to that money? In other words, does it go toward purchasing athletic equipment or something?
Okay, so I can tell you what happened over the last 3 years, because I have a report here that I put together in case that question came up. Over the last 3 years, we raised, between repairs, renovations, and upgrades, we used $78,000 to take care of athletics at North Providence High School. Between facilities, between equipment breaking down. In 2014 alone, the equipment we budgeted, we paid for, because we were asked to pay for it out of the gate receipts. So that was $21,000 right there. We had $20,000 put into putting that floor in the Gym 1, which is where the boys play. And I can go on and on. Annually, we're spending, like this year alone, In the Gym 2, where the girls play, it cost about $1,300 just to get the antennas, it's a wireless system, fixed. They don't even draw that kind of gate. We took in $70,500 in that same period, so we went in the whole $8,000 over the past few years. Last year, I believe it was last year or the year before, we upgraded the cost in the boys' gym, I'll call it the boys' gym, $8,385 to go wireless because the system was outdated. So as you can see, we spend as much as possible to keep the equipment going. It's very costly.
Yeah, you do a great job. I'm just concerned that, there's 3 or 4 games a week with the girls, the women, the
I'll be honest with you.
I'm just talking specifically of our students. I'm not talking about parents or, their siblings or whatever. I'm talking about the students with a student ID. I personally, especially freshman games, I don't think they should charge them, and I think it should be maybe $1 if they're going to get into a varsity game. I think we like to have as many kids go to the games as possible, that kind of participation, especially as freshmen, they all want to get together. That's, I don't think...
We only have one freshman program, so if that's, we only have one freshman
it's not a big
program.
deal, it's just the principal, and then the parents have told me that they've gone to all the games, and I don't know, who's not telling me the truth, but they said that not even the adults were being charged, that North Providence was the only one that charged for freshman games.
Your son played in the freshman team, maybe you can add to that.
So I know Mr. Palmieri had mentioned this to me. I do know, actually I didn't know it was just freshmen because, of course, I have students at the high school, but my understanding was it wasn't just the high school. Bertrand and Richie were both charging students. And I know when I talked to some of the kids, they said, yes, they can't attend because, for example, this week, just as an example, boys varsity and JV have 3 games. So if they went there, that's $9. Some of them can't have jobs because they have a big school load. So I get it, right? So if I'm a 16-year-old kid, $9 a week, if I just do boys varsity, it's a whack. If I go with a sibling, then it's another 18 if I go to every game. So I think, I know with under 12 we don't charge, correct?
Right, I would say, yeah.
Right, but maybe if they have, and I would say the same
It's a
thing for
judgment
middle
at that
school.
point because nobody has
Right,
IDs
they
and
have,
stuff like that.
No
right.
IDs, but if they had, I think it would be nice if they had a Birchwood Ritchie or North Providence High School ID, our students, maybe it's $1, $1. I just think, I get it. A lot of the kids said they can't attend because they just can't afford to pay. A lot of them won't attend the girls because if they've already gone to the boys' games, they can't do both. So I get it. I think the adults still pay. I think we're just thinking about the students to try to increase the participation of the students. It makes sense. But as far as Glenn mentioned, I do know when I'm trying to recall, it's a split. So for example, there are some communities that only charge for varsity. There are some that charge for freshman varsity and JV. There are some that charge, I know I went to West Warwick and they didn't charge anything. They didn't ask for any money. But then somebody else said that they had last year. So I don't know if sometimes it depends on who's running the door, who feels really generous that day. But I know some high schools, I know we went to Shea, they charged $4
Right.
for students. So it depends on the district or the school system, so that's something we can think about. But I think, I do know that many of the kids that I spoke to and asked, they're unable to attend all the games because it's quite a whack if they want to. They would like to, so if we could increase participation and just say if they have the student ID, $1, or maybe we don't charge freshmen, just JV and varsity. Because they do sell snacks and stuff. I don't know if the snack money comes to the athletics.
No, I keep that separate. It comes to athletics, yes, I'm
Okay.
sorry, it's a separate account.
So, I agree with Mr. Palmieri, it would be nice, but I would not just focus on the high school. I think we'd look at middle school as well.
So we're speaking just freshman games only.
My idea is that the freshman games, I wouldn't charge the period. And the varsity and junior varsity, if you wanted to charge our students $1, I would be okay with that. For students, just period students, whether it's ID or they go to our schools. And that's a motion I'd like to make.
Any questions? Mr. Iannetta?
Oh, most definitely. I would just have to come back and hit money from the budget, that's all. Just when I told you in the last 3 years, we took in $70,000, spent $78,000. So we lose that kind of money.
Okay, yes, question, Mrs. Picard.
So I understand if we have students who are attending one game a week at $3, because they can't afford to go to all of them, but now they're going to attend 3 games a week at $1, isn't it the same? You'll have more students attending at $1, probably, because they can afford it.
You're asking me?
I'm just
Sorry.
wondering. I mean, we could probably test it out, pilot.
No, it's not the same. When 3 games at $3 is $9 for the week.
What I'm saying
$1
is
is
you go-
$3.
the idea is that we would have more
And the income
students-
is obviously lower.
We would have more students attending the games because $1 was more feasible for them. Possibly. Maybe we just trial. I don't know. I've been paying it for the kids for the last 3 years, so my kids are almost done.
No, personally, I don't think that would make a difference to the kids. You know, they walk around with nice cell phones, they walk around with nice sneakers, they have nice clothing, so forth and so on. I mean, $3, I paid $3 when I was in high school. I graduated in 1975.
I think we have over 50% of our kids have free and reduced lunches in this town. So I would think it's a problem. I don't think everybody walks around with fancy cell phones.
Well, I think what he's saying, the decision would have to be, first of all, I guess the money would have to come from somewhere. You're going to be short X amount of dollars, is that what you're saying?
If this, in the cases of emergencies or upgrades and stuff like that, yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess we have to make a decision. Mr. Palmieri, would you repeat your motion, please?
Give the motion that freshman games, I don't believe that students should pay in our school system, and I believe $1 is plenty to charge a student that goes to the schools in our system to, that would be more than enough.
All right.
And Birchwood and Ritchie, the same thing. I mean, we offer our students, we have free gyms for them when they're in our youth programs. I think we do a lot of things for our children. I think we're starting to charge kids $3 a head. I just can't go to the games.
Excuse me, is this all games or just freshman games?
Again, freshman games would be free for kids. They don't have to pay.
Freshman games would be free.
JV and varsity would be $1
$1.
with our children in our system in Birchwood and Ritchie.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
$1 for the
With an ID.
Mr. I
with an
I
ID.
would have to know that.
the adults still be $5, Stephen?
We don't charge 5 for the adults.
Adults are 3, same as the students. Students pay 3, adults pay 3.
Maybe we should raise the adults.
Can I ask a question?
Okay. All right.
I'd like to ask a question.
Yes, sir.
So does this also include soccer and football and all the other sports that we charge, or is this just the ones that use the gyms?
I like to make it all, and if we're charging $3 for the adults, I have no problem making it $5 for the adults. And that way you don't lose anything.
I just think that you probably, your biggest income is probably the football. I would think the football brings in probably, of that 70,000 he was speaking of, I would think that football probably brought in 2/3 of it, if not more.
I have no problem with leaving the football the way it is. It's 1 game a week. How many home games do we have? 4 or 5? So it's probably not a big deal, but I think the basketball and the games that are, played 3 or 4 games in a week, those are the games I would target.
Okay, so basically what we're saying is raise the price from the adults from $3 to $5, right?
That was just a discussion. I don't know how everybody feels about that.
That's part of your motion, right?
Part of my motion.
Okay.
Can I, Mr. Palmieri, I absolutely appreciate, and I think the kids would appreciate this as well. Is it possible we could put it on, and I know the basketball season's over in 2 weeks.
Correct.
Unless
Only
we
2 games.
Unless we make the playoffs, so I won't, so unless we make the playoffs, it's over in 2 weeks. But maybe we could create a plan so it, and get involved, Mr. Goho, Glenn, to make sure it's clear, right? So maybe we look at, Glenn, do you have the budget by sporting event? So you would know what football brings in, what girls, bad, like I'm thinking, if it's not a well-attended event,
No.
maybe we can increase participation. You don't have it by
It's
athletic
I
event.
can break it by month and by, I
But
get
you
a
don't know,
report
like girls
by
basketball,
deposit.
boys basketball, soccer, football,
No, and every game could be different because based on who's coming,
right?
who's the visiting team.
Okay.
you know?
I was just wondering, maybe
If
if
you
we
want to
just,
defer it to next month, I have no problem, but I just think it's something we should be thinking about.
no, I think it's a great idea. I think we could probably do a job where we could pull everybody together to come up with a plan.
But my suggestion is make sure you put in that they have to carry a student ID because
Right, absolutely. There you go now.
there's no way I
Mr.
know who's in
Palmieri,
our
are you
school, who's not.
withdrawing your motion?
Actually, Glenn, do they have to carry
Wait a minute.
student IDs?
Mr. Palmieri, are you withdrawing your motion?
I'll defer it to next month, and we'll make a vote on it next month.
Mr. Iannetta? Comment?
So Glenn, as to what Mr. Androsi said, with regard to the revenue from the football, you can't confirm that up to 2/3 of
Oh, I can confirm it's not up to 2/3. Not up to 2/3. A football game can go anywhere from $800 to $1,000 at a gate. Now, some nights, if we have, like on a Friday night, we have a soccer game prior to it, then we have a football game right after. That's one big gate. It's hard to break up which sport was which. But I would say if maybe 4,000 a season for football at most.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
But soccer brings in, there's 8 for girls and 8 for boys, so there's 16 games there. And that's all, again, who's coming to visit us? Who's playing, how well we're doing. If we're doing really well, I could tell you back in a few years ago when we had some really good state championship basketball teams, we had some real good gates. But right now,
I'm
the
sure you
gates
had
are-
them with the
our gates are
football.
low.
I'm sure you had them with the football as well.
Yeah, this football's been pretty good. Friday night hanging out is pretty good. Kids still come all the time for that.
Yeah, usually they do. I just hate to see you lose the revenue.
Sorry?
Question. Glenn, do the students already carry IDs for the high school for school events?
They should be carrying them when they come in. Sometimes when we ask for them, we happen to know, somebody at the gate will know who that individual is, so.
All right, so then even if we make the plan, it would give her the opportunity to make sure kids are aware.
But we do announce it every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. The problem is they don't bring them.
Okay, Mr.
She asked about picture IDs for the students. So we tell them they need to come with a picture ID, and we announce it every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, that they need to bring a picture ID, blah, 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 blah. They have to pay for the event. And most of the time, they don't bring the ID at all. They don't want to carry it.
Okay, thank
They
you.
need to pay the difference, whatever it may be.
Mr. Palmieri, did you want to defer that matter? Okay. Mr. Palmieri is withdrawing his motion, and we're going to take a look at it for next month, okay? All right. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, if we're going to look at it next month, is there a plan to get the parties together who are going to have input on this?
Yes, the superintendent will do
Okay.
that. Yep. Okay, next item on the agenda pertaining to permission to sell a boat that was made by the profits will be, benefit the program. Torty here. He's not here. The superintendent, why don't we take a 5-minute recess?
So on the agenda next, can you hear me?
Yes.
We can't hear you.
It's use of property requests, and
No, we're talking about the Birchwood request to sell boats. We're still under
But I think
request to
that
address
person's not
committee,
here.
which is the third one.
I don't think that person's here.
No, and if I could speak to that, Mr. Chairman. If I could speak to that. I sat on the advisory committee when the marine trade was first established, and this is a practice that has happened before. They've been to the boat show, they exhibit, and I think it's fine that we allow this to happen because the money goes back into the program. So I personally don't have it. It's not like somebody's making it to put it in their pocket. It goes back into the program. And a lot of the program, as you know, comes from a budget, and some is even grant funded. So if you read his little blurb there, proceeds of the budget, of the sale are going to go right back in. So I'm fine with it.
It's a great program, it really is. They do a wonderful job. Yes. Motion by Mr. De Silva?
Yeah.
Okay. Second by Mr. Iannetta. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted. Use of property, the superintendent will recommend the use of property.
Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the use of property request as submitted.
Motion by Mr. Iannetta, seconded by Mrs. Bacard. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted. Next item is the approval of bills.
So moved.
Superintendent recommends the bills be paid. We have to pay our bills. Motion? Motion by Mr. Valmieri.
Second.
And seconded by Mrs. Picard. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted. Next item.
Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the minutes for previous meetings as submitted, executive session 12/13/17 and open session 12/13/17.
We need a motion on the approval of the minutes. Moved by Mr. Iannetta, seconded by Mrs. Picard. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted. Any pending business?
Okay, so, Ms. jumping right into things you've asked me to do, but I will also seal and approve the executive session minutes for December 13th, applicable to Rhode Island General Law 42-43-4 and 5.
Motion by Ms. Picard, seconded by Mr. Iannetta. Discussion. All those in favor? All those opposed? Ayes have it, so voted. Next
Motion
item.
to adjourn.
Meeting is adjourned at about 9 o'clock. Thank you.